Hello, in this video I will be reviewing CYTONIC, the third book in the Skyward trilogy. And yes, a spoiler-free review is that this book is, in my opinion, by Brandon Sanderson's standards, pretty bad. Now, in a microcosm, I feel like this book could have perhaps have worked as a standalone book, as in, just a single book, but as a sequel to the original Skyward, it's just insane. Like it doesn't even compute as a like, for example, if you gave me Skyward and then you gave me this book and you told me they were in the same series, I'd be like, okay. So yes, a spoiler-free review. It's still Brandon Sanderson. It's still good. It's probably like a 5 out of 10. Like, it's average, but it's just not. It's not great. So getting into spoilers, we basically have Spencer goes to the nowhere, it's like a place where she like teleports and stuff, and it's just unfortunate because this place has been built up as like so dramatic and cool, and it's like warp space and like these weird entities live there and all that sort of stuff, and then it's just normal land again. She goes there, gravity works as normal, air works as normal, everything is just as normal, and it's just little kind of like floating islands over a void, and you're like, bro, this place is supposed to be the nowhere, it's supposed to be insanely cool and like crazy and stuff, and it's, like physics doesn't work and all that, and it's just literally the exact same. It's totally normal, just floating islands, everything works the same, and there's a couple of little details he throws in, like people lose their memories and stuff, but it's just not, it basically just feels like normal Earth, so you're just like, we've been building up this kind of nowhere place that's so interesting and cool and dangerous and stuff, and it's just not, so that's a bit of a letdown. We have, and then I just kind of want to skip. I don't want to spend too much time talking about like the kind of content of a book because it's pretty basic stuff. It's basically just generic like quest fantasy in sci-fi kind of thing, right? So that's like fine, whatever. There's a few MacGuffins they need, and these things happen. But I think that this book basically suffers from. So I just want. There's two things I want to talk about here. There's and they kind of come together, which is that. The first one is that this book suffers from, like, a monumentally kind of, like, I want to say, like, soft magic system, or just, like, a confusing or undescribed magic. Like, things just kind of happen, out of nowhere. Like she goes to the, to this nowhere place, and her slug turns into a medallion that produces ashes that make you remember stuff. And you're like, okay, that's happening now. But the main thing I want to talk about is the end, right? Which kind of suffers from a soft magic system thing. Where the Delvers, it turns out, the Delvers, we've had them built up as they're basically these gods, right? They basically live in this nowhere place and they're insane. If they come to, they're built, particularly in the first book, at the very start of the second book, we see them, and they come to the real world, real space, and they're like huge, kind of godly beings, aside, like bigger than planets, right? Like imagine the power of something like this. It's literally bigger than Earth, right? It's huge. Right? It has like this kind of crazy maze inside, and things like rotate around it, kind of like some sort of black hole or something. It's insane, right? So you might be thinking, wow, Michael, that sounds pretty cool. What's the problem? But then I tell you that these Delvers, these insane godlike beings, are just kind of like AIs who don't want to feel pain anymore because somebody died, and somehow that turned them into like massive godly beings, and you're like, what? You know what I mean? It just feels like such a big letdown from these like insanely dramatic, powerful. You like almost like. I almost felt at the very start of the second book, it was almost kind of like some cosmic horror, stuff going on. These huge like cosmic godly beings, but then it just gets dropped in favor of AIs who are sad. You know what I mean? I think Brandon might have been going for something thematic here. In terms of like, I don't know, but like emotions are hard to process. So I don't know. I whatever it was, it missed me entirely, and I was really disappointed by this last book. And once again, though, I would point out to you that I'm talking a lot of shit. But with that said, it is still Brandon Sanderson, so we still have, once again, we have our interesting and fun main character. We have actually a couple of other interesting characters introduced throughout this book. We have kind of like some like interesting sort of pirates who are there, and they're kind of doing their thing, but they are weirdly nice, which is kind of interesting. But so we kind of have like lots of these different characters, but it really feels basically like it just turns into a generic quest fantasy, quest fantasy in space kind of thing. And look, I don't have a problem with quest fantasy, because they're going to be trying to find things in this nowhere place, but it's just like, I don't have a problem with quest fantasy, but like that's not what I signed up for. You know what I mean? Like, if you, once again, I think that the crux of my issue with this book is basically just, it does not feel like a sequel to Skyward. So I said in the last video, but Skyward's this very specific, very grounded story about basically these people fighting almost like a resistance battle against aliens trying to take back their planet, right? It's very grounded, it's very local, it's on this one planet, they're trying to retake this planet. It's a very small kind of scale story almost, because, you know, there's not that many people on this planet, but they're trying to retake it, they're trying to fight for it, and they're trying to, like, regain their independence, right? Very cool story, it works, right, it functions. And then we just go insane, and these, like, weird AIs who are going crazy in space, and, like, galactic political plots and stuff, and you're just like, this is not what I signed up for. Like, I did not expect this, and I didn't want it either. But I would like to once again finish this review on a relatively positive note, which is that I still finished the whole book, I still vaguely enjoyed it, characters were interesting, it just kind of fell apart a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Brandon is still a master's craft. So even what I think this might be the worst Brandon Sanderson book I've ever read, and yet it's still average. It's still 5 out of 10. So, you know, I would almost still recommend you read it, which is crazy. That's because seeing as how much, you know, how badly I've been talking about it. But yeah, so I do hope that I was going to say I hope you pick it up. I would say, honestly, for me, if I were to, like, give someone advice about this series, I would say read Skyward, because Skyward's insanely cool. And then just pretend it was a standalone book. Come up with your own headcanon for the end of Skyward and finish there. That's what I would do. Because Skyward is a fantastic book. And it's just unfortunate it gets a little bit let down by its sequels. But, you know, it wouldn't be the first property to have that happen. So, yeah, I'm rambling a bit. Thanks very much for watching. And I hope you have a great day.